Hey team, Jen here. I am coming to you with a video in my writing overview series. This is a series that I've designed for students who are taking courses with me, or really for anybody who wants to grapple with some of the complexities of the academic genre, of writing the academic genre. Excuse me. In this video, I would like to talk about rhetoric. Um, and I'd like to spend some time defining rhetoric, talking about the importance of understanding a rhetorical approach to the academic genre, and also give a couple examples of rhetoric in action so that we can see its merit when we sit down to compose an academic essay. So, rhetoric is defined in different ways by different groups of people. But the definition that always stuck with me through the years is that rhetoric is the art of persuasion. In the academic genre, if you've watched my video, for example, called What is the Academic Essay, you understand a bit that one of the major functions of the genre is to persuade your readers or your audience to see the topic on the table in the way that you want them to see it. So one of the driving forces of the academic essay is argumentation. You can watch another video in this series that can take you through how to make arguments and what arguments look like in this genre. But for now, keep in mind that one of the things that the academic essay does is it makes very aggressive arguments or claims concerning a context within the topic that's on the table. So you have to persuade your readers that your point of view is logical, sensical, and valuable in order to get them to come over to your side of the fence, right? Because academic texts, they aim to change the way that we think about the topics that are on the table. So the art of persuasion is very important. It's the methodology that we employ in order to convince our readers or our audience in general that what we're saying is true and real and right and best. So it's an art form, in other words, and that is, we kind of put that under the umbrella term of rhetoric. I think it's very important for students to develop a rhetorical sensibility throughout any course that they take in which writing is required in the academic genre. Developing a rhetorical sensibility takes time, but we're going to start here in this video with step one, and that is trying to wrap our minds around what Aristotle defined as the primary three appeals in rhetoric. Now, Aristotle, many of you are probably familiar with him, a great philosopher in the Western tradition, and he outlined many appeals that can be used to develop a rhetorical sensibility. But there are three primary appeals that we like to use a lot when we talk about composition at the college level. And those three appeals are ethos, logos, and pathos. You may have heard of these before, or they may be completely new to you. So I'm going to treat these terms like they are new, and I'm going to define them for you in a way that seems best for understanding the academic genre today. So the first appeal that I want to talk about is ethos. Ethos is, in some ways, well, it's hard to say whether or not it's the most important of the three appeals, but it certainly is the most centralized appeal. And it's also the most difficult appeal for people to understand. I've actually read some work about ethos that is conflicting with my own idea of ethos, and how I understand it and how I internalize that. And I think that writing instructors might come to terms with ethos in different ways. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Ethos is, it's tricky, it's slippery. So for me, I always start with the root word of the Greek word of ethos. And for me, that is ethics, right? So it's the ethical appeal that you are making in your essay. Now, as you may know, argumentation is the backbone of this essay. To make an argument, you have to make a judgment, and ethos is the coming together of that judgment, right? So how do you know when a writer is using ethos? Well, you can tell because she's making a very clear judgment. Whenever you see that a writer is taking a position, she's saying pretty much in more sophisticated language that this is right or this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is just, this is unjust. She's applying that ethical dialectic, right? So she is employing ethos in that moment. So ethos is judgment. It's when, as a writer, you let your audience know what your values are. You let them know where you stand, right? What your judgment is. You're passing judgment on something. There's a kind of, there's a sense that you are weighing in on the debate that's on the table and you're taking a position, right? So it's your ethical stance, it's your value system. Yeah, that's ethos. And that is the driving force of the academic genre, right? Because what the academic genre does, one of the things it does, is it tries to catalyze change. It tries to help us to rethink or reimagine the way that we've traditionally come to terms with the texts or the contexts that are on the table. So ethos is so important. So keep that in mind. Logos is the next appeal that I'd like to talk about. The root word of logos for me is logic. So whenever you make an ethical appeal, whenever you engage your ethos, it's extremely important in this genre that you simultaneously engage a logical appeal. Because without the logical appeal to your ethos, readers are going to walk away with the impression that you're just voicing your opinion. Now, at its core, your argument is your opinion. But in this genre, it's not a very wise rhetorical strategy to just put your opinion out there and say, guys, this is what I think about abortion, right? Instead, it's very important that you balance your ethical appeal with a logical appeal in which you marry together ethos and logos. So logos is the appeal to your intellectual side, right? So if ethics is an appeal to your soul, your values, right? That's how Aristotle probably would have defined it. The logos is the appeal to your brain. So you can tell when an author is using logos because she's engaging direct quotes from a text. She's engaging perhaps statistics. She's engaging factual information. I put factual information in scare quotes there because what is considered fact, if you read, for example, if you're a scholar like I am of, antiquated texts, you soon come to find out that what is factual is always changing, right, with time. So I put that in scare quotes. But you're engaging a discourse in which you are providing evidence, providing support to back up your ethical claims. So that is logos. It's important to think too that you can use personal experience as logos. Sometimes your ethos can give you credibility and function as logos. So it's important to keep in mind that these three appeals don't live alone, right? It's a community. There's crossover between these three appeals. So an ethical appeal could have logos in it. It could have pathos in it. Pathos could function as logos. So there is crossover there. So keep that in mind. The third appeal that I wanted to talk to you about today is, I think, unfortunately, an often overlooked appeal in the academic genre today. I think that things are changing in terms of scholars valuing pathos more, and I think that it should change in that way. Pathos is the appeal to the emotions. At its root word, pathos for me is pathetic. What is pathetic? Well, in its definition, the crux of the definition for pathetic is that it makes you feel something, right? It invokes your sympathies. It pulls on your heartstrings, right? So if ethos is your soul, logos is your mind, and pathos is your heart, right? So pathos is the appeal to the emotions. It's anything in your writing that can get the audience to connect with you. Now, that can take a wide array of forms, right? It could take the form of personal experience. It can take the form of bringing in cultural examples from The Simpsons or something that's going to make your audience relate. It could be cultural examples from your Mexican heritage. It can be a snazzy quote that's really interesting. It could be, song lyrics. Pathos can take a variety of forms. It could be the tone or the style in which you write. That could be drawing from a humorous standpoint, or sarcasm, or dark humor, or colorful language, synonyms, metaphors, engaging imagery in your writing. The list can go on and on. But pathos is anything that humanizes you for your audience. And for me, that is incredibly important in this academic genre, because the academic genre, I feel, shouldn't be a cold, lifeless document. Right? It should be infused with our passions. It should be infused with our human aspects. So if you can integrate passion, pathos, that was an interesting Freudian slip. If you can integrate pathos into your academic essay, and if you can bring all three of those appeals into balance, you've done something really exceptional, right? So that is what you want to keep in mind. Now, as you write your academic genre, I want you to think about the stakes of why using a rhetorical appeal and a rhetorical approach is important, right? It's always integral that we think about the stakes when we're writing our essays. The stakes is why it's important. Why does it matter? What's the point? The so what? So why is it important to engage a rhetorical appeal and to develop a rhetorical sensitivity? Well, the reason that it's important is the same reason that Aristotle thought it was important. When Aristotle wrote on rhetoric, he met with a lot of resistance. And the reason for that is because rhetoric is political. For Aristotle, during his time period, let me give you a little vision of what this meant and what it continues to mean today. In Aristotle's time, Greek society really believed that power came from the gods, right? So if you were a political official, if you were a leader, if you were a philosopher during that time period, you were considered to be given a gift of leadership that distinguished you from, say, the lower classes or the women that were not given these gifts, right? You had the power to lead. Now, Aristotle came along and he said, leadership qualities, primarily the ability to persuade others to think how you think and to get on your caravan and drive forward and to get on board with what you believe to be true. That is not a gift. That is something that you can cultivate. For Aristotle, maybe he perhaps wasn't talking about everybody having the ability to cultivate that. But today, we can see that that is a dangerous idea. It was dangerous then, and it's dangerous still, because when we tell people that they have the power that we see our leaders possessing in terms of starting change, catalyzing change, changing the way that we think about institutions and constructions and topics and contexts and texts, when we give that power to the people, that is a dangerous weapon. Rhetoric was dangerous then, and rhetoric is dangerous now. And that's why we use it. That's why we continue to use it hundreds and hundreds of years later, because it has high stakes. If you can cultivate the art of persuasion, you have done something revolutionary. And that's what the academic essay tries to be. It tries to be a revolutionary text. So think about that as you employ your rhetorical strategies and try to develop an awareness. Try to note, when are you using an ethical appeal? When are you using a logical appeal? And when are you using a pathetic appeal? The more that you develop a sensitivity to that as you read and as you write, I believe that you will become a stronger academic writer. I hope that's given you a quick, clear sense of the rhetorical appeals. Excuse me. I'll see you guys next time.